I don't need a father like you in dirty work clothes. Get out!
I've worked hard to provide for my family, and that's what my daughter told me. My wife, instead of reprimanding my daughter for her outburst, agrees with her. There's no place for me here anymore. I realized that and quietly left my family. But my wife still don't know who I really am. My name is Andrew. I live with my wife Caroline and my daughter Olivia. My marriage to Caroline was a long and winding road. Her father is an executive at a public trading company, and her mother graduated from a good university. That's why when they found out I was working in a factory, my in-laws blatantly disrespected me and opposed our marriage. My father-in-law said, "A factory worker can't marry our daughter." Before he even heard what I had to say, he dismissed me at the door. But I didn't give up on marrying Caroline. I went to her parents' house many times. I begged Caroline's parents to listen to what I had to say, but they would continuously refuse. Then Caroline found out she was pregnant. The in-laws were furious, of course, but now that we were having a baby, I was finally able to sit down and talk to them. I'm so sorry for doing the steps in reverse, but I've wanted to marry Caroline ever since I first knocked on the door of this house. I would surely make Caroline and our baby happy. Please give us your blessing for marriage." Hearing my passionate words, my father-in-law opened his mouth.
Can you make Caroline happy?
"Yes, I can. I'll make sure of it."
It costs money to raise a child. Are you ready for that?
"Of course I am."
Then I have a condition.
My father-in-law's condition was that we send our child to a private university-affiliated elementary school. It cost much more than a regular public school. He couldn't possibly have that kind of ability working in a factory. That's what my father-in-law thinks. But I couldn't give up Caroline and our baby just because of that. Okay, it's a deal. My father-in-law was a little surprised when I said this.
Are you serious? We're not going to pay for anything, so don't come crying to us later.
At first, he was reluctant, but eventually, I was able to get Caroline's blessing to marry me. After that, I worked harder than ever to earn money for my baby's tuition. My parents offered to help pay for my education, but Caroline's parents heard my determination and allowed us to get married. I couldn't rely on my parents to help me out here. I turned down their offer and saved my own salary to pay for their education. Caroline gave birth to a daughter who we named Olivia. When I looked at Olivia's beautiful face, I didn't think that the hardships of my job were a big deal. Caroline's in-laws were also smitten with her granddaughter Olivia. They often invited her over to their house and loved her. I was working most weekends, so naturally, Caroline and Olivia were the only two people who visited my parents' house. I was too busy working on weekdays to help out with child care. That's why I was grateful that the two of them were going to my parents so that Caroline would have less trouble raising our daughter. But as our daughter grew older, Olivia's attitude toward me gradually became colder and colder. I guess this is just another form of rebellion, a daughter's distaste for her father. Or so I thought. But in hindsight, I realized now that I was wrong. Apparently, Caroline and Olivia kept hearing my in-laws bad-mouthing me a lot while they were at my parents' house.
I can't believe that a man with a bottom-line job like a factory worker is Olivia's father. He is a disgrace to our family. I feel too bad for her.
Caroline had defended me at first, but after hearing my in-laws complain about me every single time, she had come to believe their words. Caroline began to look down on me, and whenever she was at her parents' house, she and her parents would always talk badly about me. And of course, right next to her, Olivia would listen to her mother and grandparents. Eventually, Caroline started talking badly about me, not only at her parents' house, but also at home with Olivia.
Don't marry a factory worker like your father, okay? You should find a rich man. Okay.
There was no way my daughter was going to have a good impression of me under those circumstances, and Caroline was getting less and less interested in me. I'd come home late from work, and there'd be no dinner for me. I would ask her, "No dinner tonight?" and she would reply,
You're working anyway, so why don't you just eat whatever you want on your way home?
She doesn't even show any sign of love for me. On weekends, when I wake up, I won't see the two of them. When Caroline and Olivia come home late at night, I ask them, "Where have you been?" And Caroline would reply, "Does it matter?" On one occasion, early in the morning, Caroline was leaving the house with Olivia, carrying a suitcase. Hey, where are you going with that luggage?" I asked her in a panic, to which Caroline replied, in a matter-of-fact manner,
We are all traveling together from today. My father and mother are going with us.
"A trip? I've never heard of such a thing."
You're working anyway, right? We've been planning this for a while. Don't you feel bad if Olivia doesn't make any family vacation memories?
I guess I was never part of this vacation plan. Part of me felt sad about this, but I couldn't take time off work. "Okay, have a good time. I'll pay for your trip. Give my regards to your parents." That was all I could do. Little by little, I lost my place like this. Then one day, the decisive event occurred. I found a printout in the living room that had been left there randomly. "Father's visit? This is for Olivia's school, right?" I muttered to myself, and Olivia snatched the paper out of my hand as if to grab it.
That's none of your business. What?
"But it says father's visit on it."
That's why I don't want the school to find out that a factory worker like you is my father. You're definitely not coming.
Caroline agreed with Olivia.
Yes, for Olivia's sake, you are not to show your face at school. She goes to a school where all the fathers are prominent professionals. You don't deserve to stand next to them.
Wait a minute. I'm the father, remember? Why can't I go to my daughter's school? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. I couldn't keep my mouth shut about this, and Olivia just stared at me and said,
You're always in your work clothes and you're dirty. I don't want a father like that. Get out of here, you filthy man.
Filthy man? I can't believe my own daughter would talk to me like that. As her mother, Caroline, happily agreed with her daughter instead of scolding her for what she said.
I know, right? No one wants a dirty father like you. If you think it's normal for a father to visit his daughter, then you can stop being Olivia's father now.
Quit being her father? What do you mean?
I'm saying that if you insist on going to school, I'm cutting you out of my family.
Caroline and Olivia don't need me anymore. Not just as a husband and as a father, they don't see me as a human being anymore. I feel like a fool for having worked so hard to provide for my family all this time. I understand. I'll cut our ties. As you wish. Caroline instantly started to get upset when I replied, trying to stifle her anger.
Oh wait, are you serious?
Yeah, you want me to, don't you?
But then what about the money? You're still going to pay for Olivia's tuition and our living expenses, right?
Caroline's only concern is money, not living with me. I was speechless with dismay, and she started ranting in a panic.
Hey, you're not going to run away without paying our living expenses, are you? You're a father. You have to fulfill your role as a parent.
You don't want to have such a dirty father, right? And now all of a sudden you want me to fulfill my role as a parent? Isn't that a bit too much to ask?
Shut up! You forgot the condition of our marriage. You promised to send our child to a private school, didn't you?
Yes, I remember. That's why I sent Olivia to private school from elementary school all the way through middle school, and paid for her tuition and living expenses without the help of your parents. I even paid for the trip you guys took that made me look like an outcast, right? And yet, your parents have never acknowledged me, and they kept bad-mouthing me behind my back. It's your parents who are breaking their promise.
All you have to do is be the kind of man that my parents would approve of. A man who works in a factory, who goes to work in those work clothes, isn't worth respecting.
I see. That's too bad. You and your parents are just the kind of people who look down on people based on their titles. And the fact that you've allowed that mindset to seep into Olivia's life is a terrible, terrible influence.
Don't be stupid. A dirty father like you is a much worse influence.
Caroline and I had a falling out. No matter how much we talked, we're not the same couple anymore. We don't have the same values. Okay, well, if you're gonna go that far, we're gonna have to get a divorce. Olivia looked worried when she heard the word divorce. I said to her, "Don't worry. I know I said that, but I'm still your father even after the divorce. I'll still pay for your tuition."
Thank you.
Olivia thanked me quietly. Caroline coldly tells Olivia,
Olivia, you don't have to thank him. It's a matter of course. So as long as you pay us, there's no problem. Now get the hell out of here.
I did as Caroline said, packed my bags, and left the house. Then Caroline sent me a document with the detailed terms. Olivia's tuition must be paid in full after the divorce, the house must be sold, and half of the money from the sale must go to Caroline. I agreed to all of Caroline's conditions and started looking for a new house. I had no intention of going back to that house. Olivia told me thank you when I told her I would pay for school. She'd been influenced by Caroline and her grandparents, but she was really a good-hearted girl. But there's nothing I can do for her now. The least I could do was to continue pay her tuition as before. Caroline and Olivia have decided to move out of their home and stay with Caroline's parents. It was a relief to know that Olivia would have a place to live, but it was heartbreaking to think that she would have to deal with the negative influence of her grandparents every day. I eventually moved to a place closer to work. Caroline was adamant about me not seeing Olivia, so I was left on my own. All I had left was my job, and I threw myself into it more than ever. The years passed, and Olivia was now a senior in college. It was during Olivia's job search that my daughter and I reconnected for the first time in many years. I was on my way to a job interview, and Olivia was surprised to see me.
Dad?
Olivia stopped me as I walked down the hallway in my suit. It had been a long time since I'd seen Olivia, and she'd grown up a lot, but she still looked like she did back then. I invited Olivia to a nearby cafe to talk after the interview. I took a chance that Olivia would say no, but she readily accepted my invitation. As soon as we entered the cafe, Olivia suddenly bowed to me.
I'm sorry, Dad. Since you left, I've gotten to know a lot of my friends in college, and I realized how naive I was.
Olivia told me briefly about the friends she had made in college.
I heard stories of people who had no money at home, but still wanted to go to college, so they took out loans and paid their own tuition.
I see.
There were other kids like me whose parents divorced, but their fathers didn't pay any child support, so they had to drop out of school in tears. When I realized their stories, I realized how blessed I was. I finally realized that I am the person I am today because you have been supporting me all these years.
Olivia said that she listened to stories from the outside world. She finally realized that her mother and grandparents were entrenched in their own prejudices. When she pointed this out to Caroline and her family, they said that Olivia's words didn't resonate with them at all. She wanted to thank me someday and apologize for the horrible words she had thrown at me. But Caroline wouldn't allow Olivia to contact me, and she was adamant about not sharing my contact information with Olivia. If it hadn't been for this chance meeting, I would have never known about Olivia's feelings. We were both happy for this fortuitous turn of events. I gave Olivia my contact information, and we parted ways. It was later that evening when Caroline called me. I picked up the phone, and Caroline went off on one of her tirades. "You went to see Olivia on your own? And you gave her your contact information?" Caroline noticed that Olivia was acting strangely at home, so she questioned her. When Caroline pressed her, Olivia told her about meeting me. If she knows this much, then it's finally time. I contacted Olivia to put this plan into motion. The next day, I got a call from Caroline that was more aggressive than before. "Hey, Olivia hasn't come home since yesterday. She left a note saying she was going to stay with you, but what does this mean? Is Olivia? Is it your place?" "Yes, she is." "Make her go home now. Olivia's home is here." "Olivia says she's not going back there." "That can't be true. You're just making her say that." "No, it's Olivia's intention. I'm sure you can think of why. I'm sure Olivia has corrected your mistakes many times before to you and your in-laws."
"Mistakes? What are you talking about?"
"I'm talking about the way you people look down on people based on their titles. You think you're always right, and you don't even listen to the opinions of people around you. And Olivia has always said that you're wrong."
"Oh yeah, she has been saying naive things like that. But you know, when you get out into the world, she'll see that I was right. The world oppresses the weak. Weak people like you who work at the bottom of the pyramid."
"Our lives depend on the work of those who support us behind the scenes. Don't you have any gratitude at all?"
That's just a loser's howl, isn't it? The easiest way to understand a person's worth is to see how much they're paid. People who don't make much money don't have anything to say to those who do. Look at my father. He was the director of a public trading company, and he's still a director of an affiliated company. The fact that your father didn't recognize you as a factory worker for as long as he did is proof enough.
So, nothing has changed for you and your parents?
Of course they haven't. Why should we conform on your ideas? Are you stupid?
You're right. You and I have fundamentally different ways of thinking. I understand that. You still don't have to refrain from this.
What do you mean refrain? What do you think you can do?
You'll find out soon enough what I can do. The following week, Caroline and her in-laws came to my apartment together. I let Caroline and her family through to my luxury condo, which was much larger than her parents' house. They looked at the spacious living room, widened their eyes, they bowed their heads and apologized to me.
"I'm sorry for everything we've done."
Caroline also speaks in a very gentle and appealing tone.
"I didn't know you were the president of a company related to my father's. Why didn't you tell us about that? Why did you tell us you were working at a factory?"
"Even before you and I got married, it was already decided that I would eventually take over that company. But I wanted to know more about the shop floor before I took over. That's why I worked at the factory for a few years, just like the people on the factory floor. I didn't tell you guys the truth because I wanted you to see me for who I am, not what I do."
"No way."
You and your parents couldn't understand that the factory workers are the ones who support the company. We can't have someone like that on board of directors for our company. Hearing this, my father-in-law rushed to intervene.
Wait. That's a misunderstanding. I never intended.
What did you intend then? You looked down on me as a factory worker, and you kept bad-mouthing me to Caroline and Olivia at every opportunity. I despise people who measure their worth by their profession. It's bad for my daughter Olivia. I've had to put up with it because you've been taking care of Olivia for so long. Now that I have my daughter back, I don't have to put up with you. I was convinced that I had made the right decision for the good of the company by removing my father-in-law from his position. Caroline hung onto me and said,
Andrew, I'm so sorry. I'll stay here with you. Olivia and I will live together again, and the three of us will be happy.
What? Was there ever a time when the three of us lived together on good terms? Think back. You've always taken Olivia from me and made me an outcast. I don't have a single good memory of my marriage with you.
But don't you feel bad for Olivia?
You're the one to talk. You're the one who's been bad-mouthing me to Olivia. You're the one who tore our father-daughter relationship apart. Olivia has regretted that her whole adult life. Because of you, Olivia has suffered from guilt towards me all her life.
But...
Shut up. Get the hell out of here. I never want to see your face again. So I revoked my father-in-law's position and divorced Caroline. When they realized that I wasn't budging on my decision, they slumped their shoulders and shuffled off. Olivia, who had been watching from the back of the room, comes over to me with a relieved look on her face.
Can I continue to stay here?
Of course you can, Olivia. You're my precious daughter. You can stay here as long as you like.
Thank you, Dad.
Thus, Olivia and I were finally able to form a father-daughter bond. On the other hand, my father-in-law, whose position was revoked, was forced to live on his pension due to the loss of his income. With his pension, he could no longer afford the luxuries he had previously enjoyed, so he began working part-time as a janitor. Caroline, too, has been sent to a part-time job, which she is not used to, after having lived at home with her parents for so long. I wondered what Caroline would think if she were to hear her father's words now. I'm sure they now realize how foolish they were to think that way they did. But no amount of remorse will bring back the years that tore me and my daughter apart. I will never forgive Caroline and my in-laws. I'm going to make up for what they did to my daughter.